Hello everyone and welcome to Brickstars. In this video we are taking a look and guessing what our prediction is for future LEGO Icon Carve series. Previously these were called the LEGO Expert Creator and recently now they're called the LEGO Icons, but we are huge collectors of this, we're huge fans, we have all the cars that were released to date and we love them. Now this comes just after hearing about this sort of leak rumor of the Lamborghini Countach that's going to be coming out July 1st. $180 and 1,500 parts, so very similar to the Porsche 911. That one had around 115 or 1,500 parts. Here we have an AI rendering of what this could look like. And what's really neat is that the shape is just perfectly made for LEGO. The curvature of this in the body, very reminiscent, in fact, of the Ferrari F40 set that came out some 10 years ago. So I think that it'll all look great on a shelf and kind of tie in really nicely. Here are some other AI renderings. Of course, AI is a little bit cheating just because it kind of makes something out of nothing, but you can get a feeling what the AI thinks are important parts of this car, primarily the wheels and the spoiler and just the overall shape that really looks great when it's built in LEGO. So I'm super excited for this personally. I know we are as Brickstars, and we're going to be picking this one up as soon as it comes out. Now, we do have some past themes that were kind of explored over time, and we're going to dig into them as we look into what we're going to guess and predict any future car icon series are going to be. So first up, we have muscle cars. We have the Ford Mustang, we have the Camaro. So these are classic muscle cars. They're beautiful. They're from the 60s, 70s, and they're boxy, which means you can easily build it in LEGO. They're classic cars. They're very popular, and they look great on a shelf. Then we have compact classics. Now this is stuff like the Mini Cooper, stuff like the Volkswagen Beetle, and of course the Fiat 500. I also include in here the VW buses, the T1 and T2. They're all kind of funky little compact vehicles that are just cult classics. They're super popular, not because they're fast or something, just because they're really popular and funky and interesting. So these are that series. Then more recently we got some SUVs. We got iconic SUVs here. So the Land Rover Defender, super important for the history of British automotive, the British automotive history. It is a classic example of a British car that's built right. And what's really interesting about this set is it has the off-road suspension. It has a lot of modifications. In this sort of lineup, I also throw in the truck, the fall truck. And last but not least, we got sports cars. So here we got the Porsche 911, we got the Ferrari, we got the Corvette, and then we're going to have the Lamborghini kind of fall into this category. We also have movie cars, which we're not going to look at in this video. I may do a separate video on them and predict some movie cars that may come out, but these ones aren't necessarily in that category. We got the Aston Martin from James Bond, the Cadillac from Ghostbusters, and the DMC from Back to the Future. Now, some common factors we've noticed over time of all the cars, and of course, the common factors doesn't mean it's always there, but usually. We got boxy design. If you take a look at all these vehicles, they're from the 1950s to 1990s. They're very boxy, classic vehicles. And like I said, cult classics, they are famous and popular and they sell. LEGO's going to make a car that sells, that's popular. They're not going to make things that are kind of funky and out there. Circular headlights is a theme that is reoccurring. Of course, it's not always there, but I'd say it's mostly there, and it's just because these headlights do look great on these vehicles. Two doors, they're not usually large vehicles. They tend to be smaller, compact, just because there's less repetition. Of course, that doesn't apply to the London bus. That's a totally different scale even. I'm just talking about the cars that you see here. And they all have modification options. The Porsche Targa, for example. We got the Land Rover with all the off-road parts, the Ford Mustang with its various engine modifications. The earlier ones didn't really have that, like the Mini Cooper, the Volkswagen, but more recently we're getting that. So, what are our guesses? First, we're going to say the Ford Bronco. Now, the Ford Bronco that came out recently, this new one, and the old one. So, LEGO could do either or. They are similar but different. And what is quite neat is that AI can give us sort of a prediction, and on the left side you see a modern one, and on the right side you see an old-fashioned one, and yeah, they're kind of similar. Of course, AI mixes things up a little bit, the themes. Here's an AI imagined of the old version. Of course, a very characteristic grille, a very characteristic shape, tons of modification upgrades here that you could put on the roof rack. You can even make like a trooper version or police version or something. Park ranger, for example. So there's a lot of different flexibility here. The roof can come on or off. We do have a Ford Bronco sort of in the Speed Champ series here. It's heavily modified, doesn't really look like a Ford Bronco, but what I'm trying to say here is that they already have the license to it, to the name. Lego's already communicated with someone at Ford and has that out there. And here we have a mock that was actually built out of a Ford Raptor. So they have Ford Raptors, which are similar enough that you could then implement and make this. Now this was a mock that turned out beautiful. And here we have some classic mocks. Now both of these look great. And if you take a look at them, you'll see just the detail that comes with a Ford Bronco. Of course, this is a classic. And in my opinion, I think a classic one would suit the Lego Icon series a little bit better. But here's just a nice visual to see what is possible out there. Our second guess is a Dodge Charger. Of course, we've seen tons of Dodge Chargers in the past with Lego and Speed Champions and Dom's Charger and all that good stuff. But what about in Lego Icon form? So right now we have a Camaro, which is sort of Chevrolet's flagship muscle car. We got a Ford Mustang, of course. And what about the Charger? So a Charger would be a no-brainer addition to Lego's lineup. That way we can have a big version that we can all enjoy on our shelf and build and all that good stuff. Here's some AI imagination of what it could look like. Of course, the shape is quite boxy, quite characteristic. I mean, you can see some similarities even with things like the Ford Mustang in terms of comparing the how this could look or not. But I think this would be a great addition for Lego to make. Now, we did get a very large Technic version of Dom's Charger. Of course, at Brickstars, we're not huge Technic fans, but it is nice to see. And then here we have some Speed Champ sets of the Dodge Charger. So definitely they have the name, they have the ability, they have the connection at Dodge to reach out and say, we're going to build a full-size Icon set of this vehicle. Then, this one's a little funky, and we've not seen any Toyotas in big version, but the FJ40 is a classic vehicle, and it is a fan favorite. I've seen so many mocks of this vehicle, and I think it's a no-brainer now that we got our Land Rover Defender. This is the next best thing in terms of this sort of vehicle. There is another one, an American one, that I may mention in another video, but I'm not going to mention it here. Point is, this is a classic vehicle and it would look perfect with this Land Rover. You could see here, if they did it in the kind of tan beige, it would look great next to that green Land Rover, and it would of course come with tons of modification possibility, even a lift kit, for example. We've not seen a lift kit on the Land Rover. We did see some off-road parts, but it'd be quite interesting to beef up and, you know, push up the vehicle, the chassis. So this one is another AI imagination, and you can just see the shape is quite characteristic. Now the front does sort of wrap in, it sort of points a little bit in, so there'd be some interesting technique to do the front, but I think the cabin would be pretty straightforward to do on this one. Then next up we got the Mercedes 300 SL. Now this is a super expensive vehicle. They sell for over $1 million when they're in good condition, but they are classic vehicles. And as you can see now, we're getting a Lamborghini, we've got the Porsche, we've got the Ferrari. So what's next? In terms of that sports car, super elegant style, I think a Mercedes 300 SL would fit the bill perfectly for that role. And what's quite interesting is that it just has the ability to, you know, shock people with the doors that open up and that styling. It's a true cult classic. There's a huge following on these vehicles, so much so that there's going to be a couple mocks coming up, but before that we have our AI imagination. There's even a convertible version, or we got the regular one, and of course you see the gull-wing doors showing up there, so it would look great in Lego and it would fit along any collection. And as I mentioned, there are tons of mocks for this vehicle. Here's one that's been done. That's the full-size scale. It looks to fit right in with the Icon series. And here's some other ones that you can actually make with the farm truck and another one that was made. So this one even has instructions, I believe, that you can buy. And last but not least, the Volkswagen Golf. Now, Volkswagen Golf is not as popular as the Beetle. It hasn't been made for that much time compared to the Beetle, but it is the missing Volkswagen. We have the two buses, we have the Beetle. A Golf would be the next logical step in kind of completing that collection. It's a hot hatch, it's super popular. It is a true kind of little car that is made its way around the world and is well known. Here's some AI sort of visualization of this, and you can see that the shape does match up quite nicely with what LEGO already has to offer, and you can almost envision it sitting next to the Mini Cooper, for example, because it's in the same era as the Mini Cooper. And actually, someone went ahead and designed this to make out of the Camaro set, and even is selling instructions for that. So if you are interested in, LEGO doesn't come out with this, you could purchase these instructions and make this. But overall, I think that this could be one that LEGO plays with, just in terms of kind of completing that Volkswagen collection. So here are all 5 of our predictions. We got the Charger, the Volkswagen, the Mercedes, the FJ, and the Bronco. Let us know in the comments what you think, if these are relevant, if you think that these can be done by LEGO, if they may be done, if they're totally out of the ballpark and wrong, or if they're accurate or right. So let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for next time.